butterfly blue. To begin with, we're not making one bug out bag for a large family. We're going to make a bug out bag for each individual member of the family. And this is going to take a couple of videos. I'm going to explain why you need to do that and how you're going to set each one up. Now, when it comes to bug out bags, they're individual. Everyone in the family should have their own. If they're mobile on their own, talking about even a toddler, someone in a wheelchair, if they're able to mobilize on their own, they need their own bug out bag, specifically because if you get separated, you don't want, if you lose it, unfortunately, if you lose a child, you don't want them wandering off with no water, no food, no protection from the weather. So everyone has to have their individual bug out bags. But right now, what you need to do is, if you haven't already, come up with a designation away from your home that you all can meet at in case you have to evacuate home and not everyone's there, or you become separated. That's one of the first things you need to do. Also, I want everyone to have a map, a paper map, even if it's a toddler. Maps are extremely important. Now, why would you have a map for a toddler? Well, these maps are going to contain routes where you and your family meet up if you get separated, your bug out location, and it will also have the names of everybody in the family, their phone numbers if they have them. So imagine if a toddler gets lost, they at least have that map there with all that information on how to get them back to you. When it comes to individual bug out bags, you want to make sure everyone has something to wrap up with if the weather's chilly or if they need to fend off the weather at night. I carry large beach towels. That's what I use as my blankets, and these here. You notice I've got a whole pack of these space blankets. And these things fold out to what? 52 by 84 inches. They're excellent to wrap up with at night to stay warm or deflect the sun back off of you. I would suggest go to Amazon, get you a big pack of like, I don't know, 20, 25 of them. They're pretty cheap, and make sure everyone has a couple of these in their bug out bags. Another thing you want to make sure of, if anyone is on a certain medication, you want to make damn sure that they have that medication, or at least some of it, in their bug out bag as well. Also keep it in yours so that you have backup if they lose it. I'm in back of the engine room of our crane, and it's freezing back here. But anyway, talking about the individual bug out bags, the biggest thing that you can do to help you and your family with these bags is to get out and use them. Making the bug out bags great, having it left on the somewhere stashed where you can grab it and go, that's great, but you're not going to realize how far you can travel until you actually use it. And let me give you a wonderful example of this. Years ago, one of my granddaughters, who and I always go hiking and camping, and she was about 6 years old, and I had built her a bug out bag, and we decided to go on a 5-mile hike around this lake. And we only made it halfway because she had a few problems with the bag. The biggest problem she had was with clothes. She hadn't worn the right clothes, she was getting shaved, and so the next time we did this, we had her clothes switched up, we had the bag switched up, and we made it all the way around. Now, at one point, my wife and my daughter-in-law and 2 other grandchildren wanted to go on this hike with us. So we said, okay. We went out there, and my granddaughter and I got our bug out bags on, and my wife, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren had nothing. And they made fun of us. Why are you taking the bags? Well, because we get ready to do a 5-mile hike around this lake. Oh, and both of them were weak. I walk 5 miles every day to the office. I walk 5 miles here. I go all over this. You walk in, you don't walk a full 5 miles. You walk a little bit here, in a confined environment. You're not outside, you're not going up and down hills, you're not walking the stumps. And they thought it was crazy, and they said, fine. They laughed at us for the bags, but let's go. So we went. A mile and a half later, we had to come to a full stop because my wife, my daughter-in-law, and my 2 grandchildren were slapped out. They were hot, they were tired, they were dying of thirst, they were hungry, and they wanted to turn around and go back. I told them to take a break, and my granddaughter and I pulled out water bottles. We had already packed for them as well because I knew what was going to happen. Everybody got a bottled water, everybody got a snack, everybody took a break, and we carried on. Another mile and a half later, we came to another stop. Did the same thing, and they were shocked at the amount of food and bottled water we had in there. That's because my granddaughter and I were constantly practicing. And by the time we made it back to the cars that afternoon, we were no longer being laughed at. We were right down heroes because we had gotten through that long 5-mile walk they thought they could make it through. Why are you making these bug out bags? Why do you want to have a bug out bag? Because if there's an emergency, you and your family want to get the hell out of the house with needed supplies. But if you're not practicing with these bags, if you're not getting out every now and then and going hiking, you're not going to have a clue the limitation of each individual. You may only be able to make it a mile when you need to get the hell out of the way 5 miles away. This is why it's so important to get out there now with these bags so you can make adjustments to the bags, you can make adjustments to clothes, because you don't need any surprises if an emergency arises and you all are bugging out of there. You need to take care of those surprises, those emergencies now before you actually have to use them, but you have to practice. Now going back over this trip that my granddaughter and I took around the lake and then with my wife and daughter-in-law, in the first part, noticed that as soon as my granddaughter started having problems, we stopped. We had made it halfway around the lake and we had a road nearby. I picked her up, we went out by the road, and I called for a taxi because we were practicing. One thing I did not want to do is push her, demand that she go a little further, because the next time I want to go hiking, she's not going to want to go. She's going to remember the pain she went through, the harsh conditions, and she's going to stay the hell away. But because as soon as she started getting uncomfortable, getting chafed, I stopped immediately. She knew Granddaddy was there for her. She knew that she wasn't going to have to suffer through anything, and that definitely encouraged her to go on the next hike after that. So if you're practicing, don't push the kids. Don't make it miserable for them. As soon as something's bothering them, take care of that issue right then and there. It's totally up to you what type of food you're going to put in these bags. Of course, you want to make sure that it's something nutritious, doesn't hurt to have snacks in there, and it's something each individual likes. Also, be wary of these canned foods that are really heavy because you're trying to cut back on the weight as well. Also, don't be afraid to make these bug out bags your go-to bags as well. That is, if they're in the house and you feel like you need a snack on something and the only place that you can find it is in that bug out bag, use it. Also, make sure to use that food when you should be practicing with these bags every couple months, because you want to keep this food rotated, because with any luck, you'll never have to use these bags in an emergency. But if you do, and they've been sitting there for months, you're either going to have food that's no longer any good or stale food that you're going to be forced to eat. So make sure to at least put things in there you like, things that'll last, and rotate that food around as well.